Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Ryan Kostroski Show. If you haven't been coming across this channel for the first time, vastly appreciated if you subscribe. A thumbs up is always appreciated. Outside of that, I've been out of here. I've been away for a few days. Been having some big time back issues, and sitting down has hurt really bad. So, being the old man that I am, I've spent a lot of time standing and laying, but sitting down is hurting. On the mend though now, so wanted to get back on here and talk about another thing that I'm a big believer in, and that is the importance of showing up on time and the overall importance of just punctuality. So I get it. Things happen. Sometimes you're going to be late, inevitably. I totally understand. I'm not saying I've never been late to anything in my entire life, but I feel really, really, really strongly about the importance of being on time to things and just overall punctuality. So I'm going to give you kind of an anecdotal story. Obviously, this one situation doesn't mean everything is always true in similar situations, but I would put really good money on this as a way that a lot of people feel about this. So, uh, geez, probably 8, 9 years ago now, I got hired to basically start the sales department for a small business owner here in Green Bay. He had been like a sole proprietor for a long time, but he wanted to grow the business, so he needed a sales guy. Me having 10 plus years of sales experience, we thought it'd be a natural fit. I saw it as a good way to get in the ground floor with somebody. Obviously, for that kind of a startup, there's a little bit of a risk that goes along with it. But he gave me a base salary. I was willing to kind of bartend on the weekends and deal with the smaller salary as we got things going. But the longer I worked there, the more the evidence there was that this wasn't really going to be a good situation for me. So the story with this guy is kind of based around something that happened there. And it just goes to show you, in my opinion, the power of being on time for things and the kind of respect that you show to other people when you show up for stuff. So he had I forget exactly how it happened, but he had to go out in a sales call one day. I don't know if it was through like the Chamber of Commerce or whatever it might have been, but a large janitorial company was looking for somebody to do what it was that we did at the time. So he goes out in this appointment, he comes back and he's all cocky saying we're about to land this huge account. This appointment went great. We're gonna have all this money coming in, and it was a little weird for him to be so cocky, but you could tell he was really confident in what happened. So, long story short, weeks go by and he doesn't get a phone call back. And for those of you who have done sales before, you know how that is. If you don't hear back from somebody after a week or two and you called a couple of times, you pretty well know at that point you're dead in the water. So he kind of gave me the task of getting a hold of this person that I never had contact with. But he knew that was kind of my strong area suit, was tracking people down, cold calling, getting people to at least call me back and respond to me. So after a while, the lady chooses to give me a phone call back and she agrees to have coffee with me. So I go out there, we exchange pleasantries and all the good things that go along with it. And I asked her, I go, my boss really felt like the appointment went well, but we haven't heard from you since then. If you don't mind me asking, just kind of where did things go wrong, or what wasn't right on your end? And she goes, looks at me and says, real matter of fact, he showed up 20 minutes late. Did apologize for being late. I'm 10 minutes early to everything, so I just been sitting there for a half hour. And all he said to me was, things happen when you're busy like this. She goes, right away, I knew that he was somebody that valued his time more than mine. And that was not the kind of person that I wanted to go into business with, that I wanted to, have connection with my employees and things like that. Because I just think that's the bad way to handle yourself. She goes, it would have been one thing if he came in and instantly apologized, but the fact that he didn't even address it, she said, instantly, I knew that was not somebody I wanted to work with. And again, this was something that I had already always believed, but that was a nice anecdotal story just to talk about a situation where it reinforced me. Now, she gave me the time of day. We talked. I thought there was a small chance that she would listen to me, but I knew from the moment that she said that I was fighting an uphill battle and it really wasn't going to get any better from there. Long story short, nothing ever happened, but that story has always stuck with my head. Now, I've always been a punctual guy prior to that, but that's another thing that always just sticks in the back of my mind. If you don't show up to time on something, like, you're basically just telling the person your time is more important than theirs. Like, for somebody like me who's always on time, if I'm just sitting there waiting for somebody to show up, it's just it's a waste. And if you're a busy person, like a lot of us are, I know it's not just me. I know most of y'all listen to this. We're all really, really busy, and you're just sitting there for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, a half hour with nothing to do because whatever person you're meeting hasn't showed up yet. It just kind of goes to the whole idea that that person values their own time more than yours. So again, this is an anecdotal story. I don't usually like to use anecdotal stories as reasoning behind something. But for me, this one really rings true because I've talked to other people about this since then. And I find that most people agree with me on this. Now, these people I was working for before this, they made a lot of errors, and there's a reason that the business has never really taken off since then. But there was a lot of feelings that they did wrong that I feel like people could have learned from. It's a shame that I couldn't bring everybody in there for a few days to see it. But I just thought there was a side story just to add in at the end. So they're small business owners. They're trying to fluctuate anywhere from 5 to 25 new employees. And all they ever do is complain about how they never have any money and they can't afford to pay people a living wage because the business isn't making enough money. But yet, while I worked there for about a year and a half before I quit, they both bought brand new Mercedes. If you want to pretend like you don't have any money and you can't afford to buy your or pay your employees a living wage, don't buy brand new Mercedes and show off your new cars and brag about it. Because right there, your actions are speaking a lot louder than your words, and it's just not a good way to build company morale. Again, I think that makes a lot of sense. At that same time, for that same company I was working for, or I had another client that I talked to at the time. And him and his dad owned a bunch of businesses up in a small town in Door County. And they would tell me they went out of their way to hide all of their big money items at their cabin 3 hours away. Why? He goes, I don't want people around this town thinking that we're making all this money because people are going to constantly be coming out to us for handouts. They're going to think they're paying too much. He's like, we work our butt off to run these 6 businesses. Other people have the capability of doing this, but they were smart enough not to show off and flaunt their stuff. They kept it on the down low. So I know it was kind of a bit of a side story, not the point of the rest of what we were talking about, but there was a lot of valuable lessons you can get out of a bad situation like that. So thanks for listening, guys. Have yourself a great day. Show up at time and talk to you soon.